Why? Why men need to know how to fight. And when I say that, what I mean is there's going to be things. I mean, if you don't know how to fight, there's going to be things that are going to be undeveloped in you, particularly on your masculine journey. So this is going to go for maybe allow yourself about 15 minutes to go through these 8 reasons why you need to know how to fight. And particularly if you've got sons or son-in-laws, you need to know, man, you need to know these 8 things. And one of the ways that you can develop these 8 things is by learning how to fight. Okay, and yes, I'm talking about a physical sense, but when a man knows how to fight in a physical sense, then it can run out in other areas of his life. So, for example, one of the things that we need, that we get from becoming a fighter by being trained as a fighter, and I'm talking about, for me, it was boxing, but a lot of men, it's a certain kind of martial arts. It's what happens is the first thing you need, or the first thing you'll get from being a fighter, is respect. And really, how you get that respect, it's like you can't get it unless you give it. Okay, so particularly when you're coached as a fighter, anyone who's gone into a dojo or into a boxing gym, or I always say, particularly in certain areas of my programs and books, say in the DNA of every man is a warrior, but we're trained or we're untrained, where every man longs to be trained as a warrior. So when you get a coach, a mentor in a boxing, in a fighting arena, the first thing you'll start to pick up is, man, he knows more than me. And particularly when it comes to respect, when you realize maybe inside that boxing ring and he's showing you certain things, okay, there's like a chain of command. And when you understand there's a chain of command, that's where that first thing happens, is respect. This guy knows something that I don't. Okay, and particularly when you're moving around with somebody with some experience, you realize, man, he could take me out at any time. He kind of knows every move before I do. So there's that respect that happens. Okay, and with that chain of command, you realize you start to receive something from a mentor, from a coach. You can actually that's kind of initiated by that respect, that it opens you up to receive. Okay, so when you start to get some respect, what happens is, the second thing is your posture changes, your presence, how you turn up starts to change. Your posture. For example, when you give that respect and receive that respect, what happens is your posture changes, so that when you turn up to certain areas in your life, for example, shaking a man's hand, you can look him in the eye. You can, hey, this is who I am. I respect you. I've been tested. Hey, I'm wondering whether you have. So you see a lot of boys, when they first start shaking men's hands, they don't understand that. Okay, I've seen men that have gone to shake my hand and not make eye contact, even in recent times. So your posture starts to change. You understand there's a chain of command. I mean, for every Indigenous culture that I've looked at, researched, there's always a rite of passage. There's always a way from boy to man. Western culture, we seem to have missed the boat. We're looking for the shortcut. And I'm telling you, when it comes to learning how to fight, because that's just one element to a rite of passage. The warrior is just one element out of a rite of passage, okay? But if you miss out on this, it will really damage the third thing, which is confidence, okay? And that's like what I said about being tested. knowing what the worst thing that can happen to somebody, and we've seen it over recent times, if they live in a false economy. Everything is about credit. They actually don't possess anything. But when you've gone through, I mean, these other stages I'm going to talk about, particularly around respect and about, all right, your posture from being trained as a fighter, your confidence will grow. Okay, so when you got confidence, and when confidence is, hey, I'm going to go the distance, I'm going to see this through despite how I'm feeling. Okay, you're confident enough to know I've been tested, I can do this. Okay, I'm strong enough, I'm tough enough. Okay, your belief will lift of yourself, so your identity starts to shift as a fighter. Yeah. So, and then the fourth thing, and this is crucial, this fourth thing, when you go through those first three things, there's a bit of humility starts to happen, particularly when a coach, a mentor is taking you through these stages. You get respect. Okay, your posture starts to change, your confidence builds from being tested. There's a bit of humility because you know you're one punch away from things going south. So there's that humility that happens. There's nothing worse. I've trained many men to do this, to fight. Over like a 10, 11 year period, I trained actually about 1,200 men to have a boxing match at a local casino, etc. And so many men would come in before they'd been tested, those first couple of weeks, and start talking themselves up, telling us great stories of triumph and victories and so forth. And what I've learned over the years is really the masculine journey, particularly developing that warrior, it's less talk, it's more action. And when a man leads towards more talk and less action, that's a problem. There's something that maybe he needs that test. And of course, if he's talking himself up, or victories in past years of maybe 20 years ago, that they're lacking humility. I say you're as good as you are. The last fight you had, you're as good as that one, not the victories you had 20 years ago. And I think that's why no matter what age a man is, he must continually to be growing, changing, developing, testing himself physically as well as mentally and so forth. So without that humility, yeah, I don't need to say anymore. But this is the fifth thing that you'll get from actually becoming a warrior, being trained, okay, to fight, is you protect others. That when you've got that posture, and when I say others, I mean women, I mean children, I mean people that are less fortunate than you. It's in you to protect others. But if you're not trained as a fighter, in a way you can protect and help each other, man. I've heard men say, maybe you've said it, and this is maybe a poke in the chest. Oh, I'm a lover, not a fighter. No, that's just somebody who's untrained, is what you say. And there's nothing worse, I believe, in a family environment when the woman is the strongest person. And I'm not saying women aren't strong in some, man, what my wife can do, I could never do. As I've got 7 children, what she's done, as far as giving birth, breastfeeding, that's not my department. She's the strongest person in that area. But I'm talking about being a protector, being a provider, okay? As a man, we must learn how to fight, because sometimes, obviously, it's hard, okay, to do those things. And particularly, something that I did, one of the things is why we need to learn how to fight as a man and be able to protect, so women don't have to, is what I'm saying. And, I've helped, and maybe if you're taking notes, write that down. You need to learn how to fight so your women don't have to. I've got 5 daughters, okay? People have said, oh, do they fight? Do they box? No, they don't. They don't have to. Their brothers and their father are the fighters. I'm not saying that they don't have to develop themselves, Of course they do. That's a given. But to physically fight, I'm against women being hit, whether it's domestic violence or whether it's two women fighting each. I'm against women being hit. Okay, make that clear. And for example, for many, well, it was about 4.5 year period where I do my old boxing program back in the Gold Coast, I'd get so many men over a 4.5 year period to actually support, help, build, contribute to building and making it better on a consistent basis, a women's sanctuary, a women's refuge. And man, as a man, as a protector, that's something that we did that was amazing. That helped over 100 women and children every year, and it went for about 8.5 years, which you're talking 1,000 women that were able to take. Oh, not me. I just supported and contributed. An amazing woman called Simone. That just, goodness me, phenomenal. So that's what men do. Men that have been tried and tested, they want to protect others. Okay. So the sixth thing why you need to learn how to fight, I think it's one of the best ways to actually develop a man's character. I think it's the best, and maybe not. Sometimes it doesn't initially develop a man's character when he's first learning how to fight. What it actually does, it actually reveals his character. If your character is not revealed to yourself, you're really living in a false economy. So, for example, I remember a boxing coach saying to me a long time ago, he goes, Gav, we're in a boxing gym and there's blokes sparring and what have you, and I'm waiting my turn, okay? And I already had an amateur career. I knew what the pain was all about. But I remember him saying, we're stepping up a level, okay? And I remember him saying, Gav, there's three sorts of men inside every man. There's the man I tell you I am. There's the man I think I am. And then there's the guy who's inside. That's the one that only his voice, And quite often we only really get close to that guy inside that ring. Okay, inside where there's no excuses, there's no pass the ball, there's no I'll get to it later. No, you are on. You've got another man in front of you. That's when you get to see. I always like to refer to as that weasel, that negative voice in your head. That's generally where his voice gets very loud when it's hard. Okay, not when you're out in front and you're looking good. It's when it's hard. That's when you really meet that guy. So when it comes to character being revealed, that's why we need to learn how to fight. I mean, not to mention those other things I was talking about. Because then when we're getting physically tested, we actually then get mentally tested, which is where we really need to develop ourselves, of course, to go the distance. So, and the seventh thing, and I don't know whether this is the most important thing, but it's right up there. And what I mean by that is, man, validation. When you get validated from the strength that's in you comes to the surface through physically fighting, through toughing it out. When you do that, when you receive that validation from somebody, like you say, like I said, a mentor in that first one, respect, somebody you respect who you know's been tested and he's helped you and he says, you can do this, you're good enough, you're strong enough, you can tough this out. When you get that validation, that generally is where we can lift to another level. See, if we don't have that validation the right way, subconscious, we're always looking for it. We'll go for it, we'll find it a negative way. And that's where a lot of men have, hey, get a credit card, look great, get a loan out on a car you can't afford or some sort of material possession that you can't really afford. You can probably afford the payments for a while, but you can't actually, you know what I'm talking about. We look that way instead of getting it the right way. Okay. Yeah. And particularly, there's so many, I could give you so many examples where I've been in really tight, tough situations, but having that mentor, that coach breathe into me, speak hope into me, speak the strength into me, strength that he can see in me, but he'll bring it to the surface. That's where that validation will get me through. I mean, I remember one time in particular where I was about outside, I was just around, I don't know, 8 or 10 or something like that, inside the top 10 of men in Australia. And I remember my coach coming into the gym going, Gav, we've got a fight. It's on Fox Sports. It's going to be televised everywhere. This is going to be amazing. I'm like, yeah. And until he told me who we were fighting, it was like my heart dropped. Oh man, this guy was a legend, okay, Abel Parker, and he'd lost the Australian title the year before, and it got Fighter of the Year, and it was actually in the weight division above. I was like, oh man, I think this guy's a legend. Anyway, I remember him saying, this is the importance of having the right mentor. Remember, they can see things that you can't, okay? So he says, I remember him looking at me, and he goes, how many arms have you got? And I went, 2. He goes, how many has he got? I said, 2. He said, how many legs have you got? 2. How many's he got? You know what? And he goes, listen, son, you're good enough, you're strong enough, you're tough enough. Okay? Now you got to get the willpower. You got to get the mindset. You know, so obviously he went on after that, and over the coming preparation, we really worked on my head, on my mind and my head. And man, I'm telling you, that's one of the hardest fights I've ever had. I remember the 4th round thinking, oh man, I'm not going too good. But I started strong. I remember dropping him in the 4th. I remember him getting up, thinking, no, please don't get up. And I remember he'd give me the biggest belt for the next couple of rounds, but I got an opportunity because I had the right man in my corner. Man, he spoke into me. He raised the dead that was in me, and I ended up turning the fight around and got the victory that night. But the victory was not my hand going up. The victory was I got to pass another test that was inside me. And I could not have done that without the right mentor, the right man in my corner, you know. And it wasn't just one, there was a group of them, but there was one in particular that I don't like those other things. I loved his posture, his humility. I respected him. Do you know what I mean? He was always looking out for others. He had all those other traits, you know. That's how I was able to receive that validation. And of course, you know, the 8th thing, okay, why a man needs to know how to fight. In a physical sense. So then, when it comes to his dreams that are in his heart, the purpose that's in him, the mission that lies deep inside of him, because you're going to have to fight, man. Nobody's going to give you anything. You're going to have to fight. It's going to follow your purpose and your mission. It will cost you everything. But I'm telling you, when you know how to fight, it's worth it. One of the things I always like to talk about, mentorship program around your purpose is, man, is it worth your life? Because it's going to cost you everything, but it's worth it, gentlemen. So you're going to have to fight. You're going to have that mindset to tough it out. So, gentlemen, I'm hoping you got some value out of that. I mean, the truth is I could keep talking. I love this subject, man, because there's so many men that are undeveloped in this area and their wives are stepping up. You know, I always think about, I've got 5 daughters, okay? And from time to time, I'll get a young bloke coming to the door wanting to take my daughter out. And I've got a little routine that I do. And sometimes what I'll do is I'll actually throw the gloves on them. and like when I box with them, right, I find out their character. I find out how they give, because at the end of the day, I'll endeavour to pass for them to pass the test, right? No training, no nothing. They might be fit footballers or whatever. Put them toe to toe, right? you start to see what they're like. And that's what I say. Oh, you want to take my daughter out? Is she safe with you? You know, can she and I rely on you that you're going to treat her like a princess, like your little sister, you know? So because I've gone through those other things, I can look at me and I can pick where he's at. And honestly, the truth is, a lot of men have not had that. They haven't been fathered like that. And the result is this world that we live in that is, I don't think I need to say, you know, we live in this franchise, fast food, plastic, spit you up and chew you out world, and we don't know how to go the distance. So, gentlemen, hey, listen, I'm hoping you got some value for this from this video today. Hey, listen, have a great evening, morning, afternoon, whenever you watch it. All right, over and out.